Well, as you can see, I've got a fairly detailed sketch of a water fountain. As far as I know, this will be the first time I've ever painted a water fountain, which is kind of funny. I mean, it's not that far out of the scope of what I normally paint, but as far as I know, this is the first. So there you go. This is going to be acrylic. I know this is my oil palette, but these are acrylic paints. I'll have that up on the screen too, just so you know, no confusion. But I'm going to take a little bit of our yellow, ochre, and white, and I'm going to paint in a background sky, a little cad yellow as well. And here's the thing, I've already toned my canvas with a little bit of burnt umber and yellow ochre. So that'll help me in case any of this shows through. You know, with acrylics, I think a toned canvas is really something that helps. With oils, it's nice, but with acrylic, it really makes a big difference. A little more of our yellow hit there. And that's our sky. That was a very fast sky. I'll do a little more. Let's do a little more. Let's take a little bit of blue and red. We should take a moment right now and thank our Patreon members. If you're not a member over on Patreon, you're missing out because we're doing live streams and all kinds of fun stuff. So head on over there and become a member. If you're a member at the highest tier, then you get some really great lessons and whatnot. But you can even do just the middle tier and get the live streams, which I think are very beneficial. Now right up here, I'm going to place a greenish color. In fact, that's a little too dark because acrylics do dry out lighter. So I'm going to put a green, there we go, kind of a greenish tone up here. And that's going to act as kind of this first stages of my background tree. It's going to have a simple little background tree. Now, of course, this is water-based acrylic. I always say that, but you know, there might be somebody new, you know, always somebody new and learning, never painted before. There we go. And with acrylics, you do have to kind of watch your colors a little more. You have to build more color in on purpose. There's less that happens automatically when it comes to painting acrylic. And that's just the way it is because it doesn't mix with what's underneath, obviously. You know, acrylics, people say, oh, well, can I buy an extender medium to make the acrylic last longer? Yeah, you can. You can, or stay wet, or not really last longer, but you know, stay wet. You can. But the problem is, whether or not you have an extender medium, acrylics will not layer wet over wet. They will mix wet into wet, but they will not layer wet over wet, if that makes sense. So if you're trying to highlight something, you're not going to highlight it effectively. More or less, you're going to find that you just mix. And that's not ideal. Now I'm just going to bring in some more of these, maybe even one notch darker tones up here. In fact, I'm going to go a notch darker after that. This is an old number 6 flat. I don't think I'd recommend doing this with a newer one because you'll just prematurely wear it out. And that doesn't sound like a great thing, does it? Soften those edges, actually. What I need to do is thin the paint. If I just put a little water in with it, or foundation medium, then I can thin the paint and I can rub it like so. Get a nice soft blend. Let's go right here, and I'm going to paint in. I'm going to paint in the roof of this building really quick. Fairly soft and muted in my tones. Fairly soft and muted. I'm just going to watch this right here. Boop, boop. Just like that. The roof of a building. And I'll put shadow and whatnot on it later on through the painting, but not right now. I'm just going to get it established in its placement. I think that might be too blue. Well, I can play with this later. It doesn't have to be finished. We're anywhere near finished right now. Cool. And then maybe just right down here. This painting is because the way I sketched it out is really going to be just done kind of like a fill in the blank kind of a deal. You know what I mean? Get it finished and then move on to the next area, at least for the underpainting phase. That's the way I'm planning to do it. You could do it a different way. It's going to be interesting to see how this turns out, really. Now I'm really using the same color, similar color. I'm going to put a color on this roof as well. This is some sort of a garden, a botanical garden type of thing. This reminds me of, this is not based strictly upon, this place doesn't exist, but it reminds me a little bit of like Huntington Garden in California. I don't know what the equivalent in Tennessee would be, but this is what it reminds me of. You know, it's got the little buildings, the old historical buildings, and the beautiful gardens. It's a little bit more professionally manicured and whatnot. So I think we're going to try to capture some of that. And so there will be some amount of symmetry, although of course we'll keep it still naturey and wild looking, and I think that'll work. Now I'm just going to continue to kind of bring in some foliage and some bushes. It's not going to be perfect. I'm just kind of figuring out, okay, where do I want each element? You know, I don't have it all sketched out perfectly at all. Just kind of bushy shapes, not too, you know, at this point it looks a little jungly, a little overgrown. I'm going to dial some of that back. I'm going to add some more details and pick out individual bushes, but I'm not doing it now. I'm just laying color down for now. So hopes that helps kind of give you an idea of the direction that I'm headed. Yeah, definitely not going to remain like this looks very foresty, and I'm going to have it more manicured, but I don't think I'm ready to get to that. I think if I start looser, which you can clearly see, how do you like my little Italian cypress trees? Anyway, I think if I start looser and then work into, and also smudgy, I got to have it fairly smudgy because I want to pull the detail off of the smudginess. And I think that will look really cool. And so I'll have to add shadows and highlights with a little microfilbert brush. And there'll be quite a lot of it, but it won't take that long. It won't be that bad. Comma strokes, they don't take that long. There we go. Now I know I want a big tree of some kind here. And actually I'd like to see some larger shrubs. I mean big. So let me just lay the dark. Kind of don't really like doing it this way, but I'm going to do it this way. I'm just going to lay the dark in. Typically, I like to lay kind of a mid-tone down and then dark and then light on top of that. But I'm going to go ahead and just lay this in really dark, really, really dark. Get it covered. It's acrylic. It'll dry and I can go back and fix it, you know, put other things on top. Okay. Yeah, because I want that to be bigger leaves and stuff down in that corner. So that'll actually help quite a bit. I'm using the number 4 bristle brush, and it's hardly even necessary to get this underpainted because the color is so similar. A little darker though, so I'm going to underpaint some of this here. More burnt umber, and then you know what I can do as well is some red and some blue to create purple, and I can bring some of that purple along, and I think that would look nice, you know? Kind of create a little variation. That was a little too much blue, so I'll put some red in it. But I often will do that when I paint roads, put a lot of purple, because purple is just a nice color for shadows. I just really think it's better than black or, you know, whatever alternative you might use. I think it's just pretty. It's got some color, some life to it. It's not too dark, typically. Let that dry with all of the variations. Don't just blend it all to a smooth color. Leave it varied. And that way, we'll have more of an interesting effect without having to do it later. You know, we got all that already kind of worked in. Not too much, just a few stones here. I don't want it to look like a shoreline. Maybe a few rocks might be appropriate. Kind of on the side there could look nice. We can also do rocks up in here if you want. I think a few might be kind of pretty. There's a rock here, perhaps. Just we'll lose that in the foliage. I mean, maybe there. I don't know. We'll see. Yeah, I may get rid of all that if I don't like it later. I'm going to take just a few dark colors kind of from my surrounding areas, and I'm just going to bring in some water color here, more watercolor. It didn't hurt that we sort of established the colors earlier, but it does help to mist this area, I think. I think it helps. And what this is going to do is just begin to bring everything together. Now that the canvas is covered, I think it's going to be easier to identify, you know, what my tones and values need to be. So a lot of the times, not all the time, I'll try to cover my canvas first. There we go. And with acrylic painting, because it dries, I'm not worried so much about layering. You know, whereas in oil painting, I'd be thinking, okay, what needs to go on top of what, and what am I going to mix mud, you know? And I'm not so worried about an acrylic for obvious reasons. You know, it should be, well, no, it's ripply. I was going to say should be fairly flat. No, it's going to be moving because of the ripples of the, in fact, it might have kind of a movement like so. Maybe I should do that. Let's just squiggle. Quick change of plans. Let's squiggle around like so, just real loose to kind of bring in some of that circular motion like you threw a pebble in the water, because we're going to have water coming off of this fountain. So I think that would be good. I don't know I've never done this before. Your guess is as good as mine. I think it would be good to go ahead and get this water fountain at least blocked in. What do you think? Maybe. There we go. Going to stick within my lines. because I put, took the time to put the lines there. Might as well stick to them. I just think it'd work better. Definitely. And I'm going real slow. It's nice to have a dry canvas to put my hand on, rest it, so I'm not having to float. If you're having to float your hand out in midair, it makes things much harder. So this is easier. Of course, you could use one of the artist steady sticks. Never actually used one. No idea if they work. I always just put my finger down and then, blend away the mess that I make later, but it's nice not to have to do that. I'm just establishing the first initial color and the first initial highlight. Just using earth kind of clay tones, not anything weird. And you know what, here's something that I should say. There is no pressure to fill in your lines. If you don't like it, if you're like, it doesn't need to come out this far or whatever. Like, you can come back with green and touch those areas up. You don't have to fill it in and make something out of proportion. Make it the way you think it needs to be, and then come back in and just fill it in if that's what is required. I'm gonna let that fountain sit for just a moment as I prepare my rocks, my palette here. I'm gonna get these rocks at least blocked in somewhat. There's going to be obviously multiple layers. You'll lose your paint if you don't constantly mist it. And I think I'm also gonna put a little mist on my road. And that'll just help the paint to flow a little. This is pretty similar to rocks painted underwater, actually, just above water, like a creek bed, flat stones, and then the perspective, of course, gets skinnier and skinnier till all you have back here is just little touches and smudges. I need to bring that down though. There you go. There you go. So, with varying colors too, gotta have a lot of different colors. So some oranges and pinks and yellows and whatnot. Lots of color, purples, of course. But just go ahead and get that established. My light source is coming through, kind of through here. I may glaze this a little more, I may not. I'm gonna hit this fountain, hit all these beautiful shrubs, and hit right here, but maybe down here will be shadow, over here will be shadow. I'll kind of make a note of that. Here's the number 4 bristle brush. I'm going to just bring in some yellow and green and white, and I'm gonna really break the brush apart. And really it's like, okay, where do I wanna start? I know I want a bunch of bushes, but gotta start somewhere. Let's start here. Gotta start somewhere. I'm just going to tap. This is one of the easiest ways that there is to create a little bush. Now, on the back side here, I'm gonna just dabble with my finger to create a smooth transition between the highlight, or what I would call the first of the highlights, and the shading area, the shadow areas. Of course, those shadow areas are not fully established yet either. Just nothing's fully established in this painting, really. Everything's got a little bit of work to do. I don't see any area really that's finished. Maybe not even. I'm still thinking about glazing the background. These bushes back here are a little softer, a little blurrier, and so I just touch them with my finger, and I'll do that progressively more as I go back to where I begin to probably just use brush strokes like so, really. Anyway, there you go. We're gonna do a lot of this. I'll jump back in and show you some more later, but this is repetitive. Just gonna hang out here and paint for a while. Now using a micro filbert brush, I'm gonna just bring in some details here. Little squiggles and lines, little comma strokes to create some slightly more individual leaves. But because I did a lot of it previously, I don't have to, with the other brushes, I don't have to do everything like this. Just enough to kind of sort of bring that illusion, the thought of, hey, maybe there is a little more action up here, but not much. See that? You don't need to go, it's like bricks on a building, which I guess we're gonna be doing. You don't have to paint everyone. You just sort of get it going in that direction, and the viewer's eye will actually fill right in the blanks. So that always works out well. Don't have to overdo it. The other thing I gotta get done is, as well, just using the same old colors. I need to get some of my cad yellow back out, but I need to get up in here and just paint a few individual leaves. I'm just doing that with a fan brush. If your fan brush isn't doing this, it's because it's got too much paint in it. If you just load only the tip of that brush with paint, and that paint needs to be fairly moist, then you can actually just get up in here and make thousands of little individual leaves with just a few strokes like this. And I'm going to leave maybe some of that backdrop showing through. That'd be kind of pretty. Now I'm filling this area in here just with some more leaves. Imagine that. I've painted a lot of leaves. Does anybody else want to take the brush? Yeah. Pretty soon I'm going to begin to do some flowers. I'm going to do that very soon. The next step, really. Just want to get this finished up so I don't have to mess too much more with the leaves. Yeah, won't be much more. Just get a few. I just wanted to kind of show you this area here, just how I'm filling it in with maybe some different, I'm using my angle filbert brush. In other words, this is a dagger brush, another name for dagger brush. And yeah, that works. It's not perfect. That tree up here, I actually want to kind of close in this area. I need to do that with some black. I might as well go ahead and do it now. Background's kind of pretty there, but let's just do a few leaves. I can do less is more, you know, build it out slowly. You know what? No, it's good. It's good. A little repetitive here with those two holes in the sky being kind of similar, so that will help disguise that. It won't look repetitive anymore. Bring those leaves through and oh, look at how much better the painting looks by doing this. Doesn't it look better? There, yes, that'll work. Now I'm going to mix up a pink color. Of course, I'm going to need varying amounts of dark and light. It's not going to be just one flat color, obviously. Let's see right here. A rose bush, perhaps. Do a pink rose bush for starters. I can have several colors if I want to. We'll see. It feels so good to get some color in this painting that's not just green or earth tones. You know, something a little more punchy and vibrant. It's very nice. And again, I do want it to look like roses, not just a clumpy flower. If it did come out looking like a clumpy flower, that would be okay. I'm shooting for roses, so just so you know, even if it doesn't come off that way for somebody else watching, looking at the painting, you know. Let me see right here. And so to kind of make a rose look, I'm going to maybe go in circles. Does that look like a rose? Maybe. Where's my live stream chat when I need it? Oh, there we go. Now I'm going to finally get on to highlighting our little fountain here. Just going to do little bits at a time because otherwise it might get out of control, really. Yeah. When you don't know what you're doing, do it slowly. There we go. Ooh, nice. Now right up in here. I don't want to set my fingers because that's wet right there. Gotta be careful. So if I smear it, then I'll be having to do it again. But I'm just beginning to build up. It doesn't have to be perfect. A little impressionism is okay. Oh, I like the little shot of white that for sure happened on purpose. You ever get one of those? Ever have that happen on purpose? So now I'm going to attempt to bring in some water here from the fountain right on the top. Starting at the top, and I'll have it running down like so, just straight, obviously, with these little trickles. There we go. That looks pretty good. So far, so good. I'd say that reads about like water trickling off a fountain. I'm trying to do like you would a silver lining on a cloud, kind of broken lines, you know? Makes sense. I don't think this is going to be a big deal, really. Unless I mess something up. I don't think it's going to be a big deal. Yeah, it looks pretty straightforward, really. Just a little bit of softness there isn't going to hurt anything. Ooh, what did I just say about messing something up? There we go. Well, it's actually kind of pretty. I like it. I didn't mess it up at all. It was perfect because it kind of adds a bit of variety. Needed that. If they were all just lightning beams, you know, that wouldn't look as good. So I'm going to see that? I learned something there. I'm going to thicken that area in the front. There. Oh, look at that. See that? Big difference. Big difference. Let your eye fill in the rest. Now, one of the very last things I'm going to do is just glaze this painting with darks. This is just black and water. Black and water. And I'm just glazing. What this glazing does is it's very transparent, and it just sort of knocks down any of the highlight areas. This is the best thing you can do with acrylics is glaze. My favorite technique with acrylic. And I'm just glazing it here and there. If you do it right, you won't really see the brush strokes, you'll just see the color change. And it allows me to darken areas. Or if you could also highlight with haze. It wouldn't be like a bright, punchy highlight, it'd be like haze. But you can use this to add contrast and varying degrees of light. Shape your light with this, which is what I'm doing. Cool. So you see how I've been kind of just darkening some areas in this path, maybe darken. So anything that pops out to you like that rock, maybe a little too much, just you can soften things. And again, you shouldn't see the brush strokes afterward. Now I'm just going to paint in a few of these limbs. Pretty straightforward. You just thin it down with water. The only trick is the paint dries out so quickly, so you almost have to mist it every couple minutes. I've got an air conditioner blowing, and I've got a just very bright, hot light up to my side. So of course mine dries a lot faster, a lot faster than yours probably would. But still, you're going to have to every few minutes. You're going to have to do something about trying to thin it down. I don't need a lot of branches. Honestly, I don't need to make it look crazy busy or anything. That's probably enough. Let's get a few more on this one. Probably requires a little bit more because of the open nature of it. It's not as closed in. There we go. As that other tree. It's some sort of a different variety, or else the gardener didn't put fertilizer on this side. Probably that. What a painting, though. This is kind of fun, different. Hopefully you give it a try. Let me see your version. There was nothing in here that was really crazy. It was all pretty normal. Even the fountain was pretty straightforward, and I've never done one before. I felt like it really wasn't that big of a deal. Well, that wraps up our little painting for today. I don't know why it took me so many years to finally paint a fountain, but I enjoyed it. Don't forget to check out our website, DVDs, brush line, and Patreon. Thanks for watching. Well, hopefully you enjoyed this video. Remember to subscribe if you're not already, and click the like button. It helps me out a lot. Stick around, watch a couple more videos, and stay inspired.